property manager or landlord, or if you're at a point in your life where you have a portfolio and you're trying to determine how to make sure that all you have acquired stays within your family as you transition, trust me, you will receive nuggets on tonight. So, my name officially here is First Lady Crystal Arrington. However, I have other hats that I wear. I am a Wisconsin licensed state realtor for Shore West Realtors, and I am the newly appointed property manager for the Embassy Center, MKE. I am so blessed this evening because I'm not here by myself, but we have a panel of such great minds concerning real estate this evening, and I want to go ahead and begin to introduce them to you. For those of you who are on Facebook, there's going to be a lot of information. You may have questions. We are going to have time at the end of tonight to field some of those questions. So make sure you are putting those questions in the comment box. For those of you who are here, again, we will have a time of questions and answers at the end of this panel. However, it is so jam-packed that we really want to make sure that you all are following along on the slides you should have received as you came in, and make sure that you jot your questions down so at the end of the session we can make sure we can get you some answers. The panel here, just getting my clicker right. We have, it always works best when you turn on the clicker. Okay, so, of course you know me, Crystal Arrington. We've got Tabitha Jordan here, who is a licensed realtor and broker. She works for Coldwell Banker. She's not just a realtor and broker. She also owns property. She's a landlord. She's a rehabber. Anything her hands find to do. Yes, we also have with us tonight Milton Taylor. He is a loan officer, you all, from the Johnson Financial Group. We also have Herb here, Herb Runnell. He is also a loan officer from the Wisconsin Mortgage, which is a subsidiary or an affiliate of Shore West. So we go back, So we have two loan officers here. We have several realtors here, and we have Rick. We have Rick here. Rick Francis, you all, is the owner and lead inspector for Foresight Home Inspection. And we have Pastor Jeff Neifeld. He wears multiple hats. Yes, he is a pastor, and he's also a licensed realtor at eXp Realty. I told you all, jam-packed the wealth of knowledge you all are about to receive. We have attorney Stephen DeVogus here, who is the founder of DeVogus Law Group. He is here with us. He's going to share a lot of nuggets. And we have our Maurice Wentz, Brother Mo, with us as well, commercial developer. Let me go back real quick. He's in commercial development. Brother DeVogus is, he's in commercial development. He's also owns, you all have probably been there, Red Snapper. He's the owner of Red Snapper. And yes, and speaking of ownership, going back to Brother Mo, he just opened up Sherman Park Groceries, you all, right here in Milwaukee, opening the laundromat. When is it coming? Oh, the 20th of this month, of September, a laundromat. He is like a real estate tycoon, you all, certainly on his way. Several properties within his real estate portfolio. Again, a wealth of knowledge here before you. We want to invite you to go on a journey with us. If you look at this first slide, do you see how busy this slide can be? This is how you go from desiring to acquire property, whether it be commercial or residential. Lots of steps along the way. A lot of people get stuck right there, the selection part. But we're going to help you. But before we get into all those other steps, anyone who's interested in acquiring property, you need to start first with your financial institution. So we're going to ask Milton to help us understand, what is it about this credit score? What does that mean, really?
Thank you very much. How everybody doing today? And I'm probably going to get started here with preparing your finances for that purchase of that home. And part of that finances is your credit score. And basically, I'm assuming everyone probably heard credit score. Most of you probably know your credit score, especially if you bought a car, credit card. I'm pretty sure that you went to a lender and they ran your credit and gave you credit score. So I'm going to start with your credit score, which is a measurement of your credit worthiness, or how likely you are to repay the debt. Okay, so everything starts with your credit score if you need to borrow funds to purchase a home. So I'll say that again, if you need to borrow funds to purchase a house. Okay, some people, they pay cash for a house. Others, if you don't, you got to make sure your credit is tight, because you're not going to get that loan. I'm just being honest. So that's the first thing the lenders look at, and the first thing they do to determine how much you can borrow. A low credit score can lead to a loan denial. It can lead to a higher interest rate, and trust me, it add up very quickly over the life of the loan. So if someone with an 800 plus credit score may get an interest rate of 4.5, someone with a 620, they may be looking at a 5.5. That 1% difference is a lot over the life of a loan. So that's why it's very important that you want to try to achieve the highest credit score as possible when you're applying for a mortgage. And when you come in and you talk to me, we're going to pull all three credit reports. That's from Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. And what we do, we run a FICO score. I mean, everybody might have heard of that FICO score, and that's Fair Isaac Corporation is what it stands for. And what that is an algorithm that determines your credit score. And there's factors that goes into that. And those factors consist of a payment history, your credit utilization rate, and that's basically how much you have outstanding on your revolving or credit cards compared to your limit, the length of your credit history, the type of credit, and new credit. And there's a weighted average for each one of those. So payment history and your credit utilization rate are combined 65% of your credit score. So payment history is 35%, utilization rate is 30%. So just those two alone make up 65% of your credit score. And what you need to know there is making your payment on time over a period of time is going to increase your credit score. Just that alone will help you increase your credit score. Now, if you have a credit card and your limit is $5,000 and you have $4,000 outstanding, your credit score is going to be impacted in a very negative way. Now, if you take that same credit card and you reduce that outstanding balance to $1,000, it's going to impact it, but it's not going to impact it as much in a negative way, because that balance the percentage is very low with the $1,000 compared to the $4,000. So keep that in mind. And credit scores typically range from 300 to 850. And 800 and above is considered exceptional. 740 to 799 is considered very good. 670 to 739 is considered good. And then you have 580 to 669, which is fair. And then you have 579 and lower, which is considered poor. But we don't worry about that. We're not going to talk about that, because we all sitting here with exceptional credit scores, right? All right. Like I mentioned earlier, there's ways of improving your credit score, and that's one, making consistent on-time payments. That is the big one, and lowering your credit utilization rate is also a big one. Now, if you this is just a FYI, you can get a copy of your credit report free every year at annualcreditreport.com. It's very important that you check your credit reports for accuracy. In my case, I have a junior, so his stuff sometimes shows up on my credit report, and my stuff shows up on his credit report sometimes. So I have to monitor that, especially when you have a junior. FYI, gentlemen out here. So it's good that you do that every year. I typically do mine on my birthday. So moving on. Okay. So also preparing your finances, you will need to start saving for a down payment. Typically what you will need to save is probably between 3% and 20%. There's loan programs out there, especially for first-time home buyers, for 3% down. I'm not going to get too far in there with the additional grants that can help with that. And up to 20%. If you want to put more, that's fine. But the main thing is saving for that down payment and other costs. Okay, you're going to have other costs in there too as well. Closing costs. You got some prepaid stuff that you're going to have to take care of. And that's where Rick, you pay Rick. First thing you're going to do is pay Rick because he's a home inspector. Okay, so he got to get paid. You want to pay him when you buy that house for the first time. So you work on saving for a down payment. Anybody, if you need to save, you can take that tax return and save it. You get that raise, take that raise and save it. Any little thing you can do, reduce your expenses and save. So it's very important that you have that reserve too on hand. I would say recommend 3 months.
Can I take 10 seconds?
Okay.
I just want them to see something. You good. Everything that's surrounded in green, that's for them greenbacks that need to be distributed at that time. So that's why we start with the financials, because all those areas in the green is when money's coming out in order to get to closing. Okay?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so moving on with the financing part here. So you need to know your budget, and what I mean by that is when you come and see me, you should come see me first before you go see a realtor and go look at that house, because I'm going to tell you how much house you can actually afford, okay? And the reality is going to set in. So, and there's really no need to be going out to the realtors when you haven't even talked to a loan officer yet.
Hallelujah.
And the reason for that, because sometimes people think they can afford that $500,000 home when in reality it's a $300,000 that you can afford. And the reason for that is because people don't understand, we take your household income and we compare it to your monthly debt, your auto loan payment, if you got a student loan payment or a credit card payment, recreation vehicle, and whatever's out there on your credit bureau report. We compare that to your income on a monthly basis. And typically that leads us to a number called the debt to income ratio. That's very important in affordability of a home, because you want that number to be low. That way you can afford more house, so to speak. So a good benchmark is to have that about 28%. Your housing payment should be about 28% of that. Now we would 45% debt to income ratio is high, but you probably still can get approved, and that would include your monthly housing payment along with your other monthly debt. But once again, we want that low as possible. We want it low as possible coming in the door. Now, what you do after you get into the house is all up on you, but coming to get that house, we want to be able to, afford that house. Okay, so pay that credit card down to zero when you come into the door. That's a good thing to have. So I would go into an example, but I know my time is running up here. So I'm gonna jump over here to the difference between a pre-qualification and a pre-approval. So I'll keep it simple. Oh, okay, all right, well,
I think I scared them.
okay. So I know at Johnson Financial Group, we don't do a pre-qualification. We do a pre-approval. And what that pre-approval consists of, we collect all your information. We collect your W-2s, your pay stub, your bank statement. We pull credit. If you're self-employed borrower, we're going to take your tax returns for the last 2 years. We're going to go through it. I'm going to go through it, and then I'm going to send it to the underwriter. They're going to go through it, and they're going to say, yeah, they're pre-approved. And they may add some conditions to that after that, but that is a pre-approval, a solid pre-approval. That's the realtors love a solid pre-approval. They do not want to know or see a pre-qualification. A pre-qualification is basically a lender just taking your information based off what you tell them. It's just like stated income. Oh, yeah. You know, I have people tell me, yeah, I make $7,000 a month. Okay, give me your pay stub. And it's a different story. And we try to stay away from that because we want, you know, our names out there. We want, you know, making sure our names get established. And once again, the realtors, they just don't. I can share an experience with you. Just this last 2 weeks, I had 2 listing agents call me up because they saw my name on the pre-approval, and they said, and they wanted to know, is this real? I was like, yeah, as real as it get. You know, I looked at it, and it goes to our underwriting department, and she said, thank you. And so I asked another question. Can I ask you a question? She said, why would you call me up and ask that? Because Rocket Mortgage does pre-qualification, and my seller had 2 individuals. We got to closing, and come to find out there were some issues with the income, and they couldn't close. So that's why it's important to get a pre-approval. Now, if you go to a lender, you should say, hey, is this a pre-qualification or is this a pre-approval? Because you don't want to get to that point, you're about to buy this house, and then you get the uh-oh, some information is missing. So just keep that in mind when you start this journey of buying a house or an investment property as well. And in conclusion, that's pretty much what I have to say. Just save the questions as we move on to the end, and I'll be more than welcome to answer any credit questions or pre-qualification, pre-approval questions.
That's great. Thank you. That was a lot of good information. Herbert's going to expound upon that. Herbert's going to explain to us about the different types of programs, loan programs that are out there.
All right, Crystal, thanks for having me. It's my privilege to be here for sure. So once you get into the loan process, you've got to figure out, okay, what kind of loan program am I going to do? And a lot of these programs, and I'll talk about each one, there's more than what's on here, but a lot of them have to do with down payment and credit score. I'm going to start with conventional loans. Everybody's heard of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac maybe. Those are 2 giant companies. I think about 75 or 80% of loans that mortgages are out there owe Freddie Mac or Fannie Mae, and those are conventional loans. I know that my mortgage has been sold from Fannie Mae to Freddie Mac and back a couple times for reasons I really don't know about that, but you know, it doesn't change anything with my loan or anything, because once you sign that promissory note, mortgages that nothing can change. The adjustable rate loan can change, that rate can change, but even though my loan was flip-flop, years ago they didn't have to tell buyers about that, but now they're required to disclose that information. Conventional loans are typically you have to, minimum of 3% down. Most of the time 5%. If you put 3% down on a conventional loan, you have to have really good credit. Typically for my experience is about 720 or higher. And you can't get that loan approved. Typically they want to see the money, but then there's also something called the reserves. So they want to see, okay, this is how much money it's going to cost you to close your 3% plus closing costs. Closing costs can be $2,500 to $3,000 depending on the loan program. And then 3 months tax reserves, 3 months house insurance reserves, and that's all part of what you're going to need to bring to closing. then they typically want to see that you have another, at least equivalent to 2 payments in the bank after that. So it's referred to as 2 months reserves. That's very important on that 3% down program, that you have some money left in the bank, because they don't want you to buy a house and you're stuck. Something happens immediately and you don't have the cash to do that. They don't want you to be out. So that we can also put 5% down. Typically, people that are, this particular loan program, the conventional loan program, will go down to 620. You can have a credit score of 620 or higher. If it goes below 620, you can't do that program. So leads me into the FHA program. FHA program is really a program that is kind of an alternative to a conventional program, because it requires 3.5% down, but you don't have to have the most perfect credit. Some lenders can go as low as 580 on a credit score for an FHA loan. Wisconsin Mortgage is a minimum credit score of 600, so you can go that low and still get a mortgage. But kind of back to what Milton was talking about, that the lower the credit score, the more the cost of the loan would be interest rate wise. Typically for our investors, if you get below 640, they want to charge a little bit higher rate. Typically, instead of 5%, be 5.5%, something like that. Which is, well, today, for example, today FHA rate was 5.75. You'd probably be looking at 6.25. But I'd rather have you at 5.75 for sure. So FHA also requires that 3.5% down, and both of these loan programs, if you put less than 20% down, you have to buy private mortgage insurance. And does everybody know what private mortgage insurance is? Don't know.
They need to explain. Maybe need to explain.
I call it foreclosure insurance. If you can't, you're buying insurance for the lender. Nobody wants to pay it, because once you buy the house, now you're paying mortgage insurance. Like, oh, gee, what am I paying mortgage insurance for? And it's really an insurance for the lenders in the event that when properties get foreclosed on, they have a pool of funds to cover their losses. So that's really what private mortgage insurance is all about. Conventional loans, the more money you put down, 5% mortgage insurance is higher than 10%, then 15%. If you get to 20% or more, then the mortgage insurance is zero. FHA, on the other hand, you have to buy mortgage insurance whether you put 50% down or doesn't matter, you have to buy the mortgage insurance. If you put less than 10% down, mortgage insurance is there for the life of the loan. So we're trying to avoid those FHA loans as much as possible, because it's a little bit more expensive that way. On the other hand, it's about 15%, I think, of the loans that have been done in the last 10 years have been FHA loans. So it's very much an important program, because people wouldn't be able to buy a house if it weren't there. That is for sure. VA loans. Anybody a veteran? So a veteran, VA loans are great because you don't have to put, it's a true no money down loan program. You don't have to put any money down. That doesn't have a monthly mortgage insurance premium either. You pay what's called a funding fee. So you're paying some money up front, but then they don't make you pay it per month. So the mortgage insurance payment is zero. And the great thing about that is veterans get the opportunity to have a house payment for much less than whether it's a conventional loan or an FHA loan. And I'm really not going to talk about USDA loans unless you have to live outside of Milwaukee County. Half of Waukesha County is eligible for USDA. You have to be a rural. I'm eligible to do, I've been a loan officer a long time and can do a USDA loan. And I do a lot of lending, obviously in Milwaukee County. I still haven't done a USDA loan. Because that has income limits. And the person that wants to live in western Waukesha County, for example, they're over the income limits. And so it's really not a lot of opportunities for a urban lender like for me, for example. And then and then adjustable rate loans. That means that your rate can change at some point in time. So you have a 5-year ARM. Adjustable rate loans, that 5-year refers to how long the initial rate is fixed. So it's only good so if you go in and the rate's 5%, that's your rate no matter what for the first 5 years. And then after that, the rate can change. And they have to describe to you how it changes after the 5th year. It all has to be in writing as part of the promissory note. They can't just change it to whatever they feel like. Typically, rates can change up to 2% every year. Some loan programs will be a 5-year ARM, 7-year ARM, 3-year ARM, where the rate can change after that adjustable rate period. So it's really an opportunity to get into a house. Typically, those interest rates are lower than the fixed rate loans. Some people don't want to like the idea. One time I had a lady do a 5-year ARM, and I refinanced her like 3 months later because she said she couldn't sleep at night. Which is, it's okay, you know, that she was worried about her rate changing in the 5th year. And I've had another guy, I tried to explain to him, he wanted to do a 3-year ARM, and I said, I got to explain to you what happens after the 3rd year. And he goes, no, I'm paying the loan off in 2 years. And he goes, I'm retiring in 2 years, I'm selling my house, and I'm going to Florida. And I said, well, I still have to explain it to you. And he said, I'm not listening. So then I didn't. So, and then I also want to touch upon grants and programs that are available to first-time home buyers. WHEDA is a great program that you can do that program. They'll let you do a 3% down. They'll give you a 3% loan for that down payment where you can do 100% financing where 97% of the loan is financed, and then they'll give you a loan for 3% of that down payment. So it's really, and that loan is a loan that I've done quite a few of those. You have to have really good credit to do that, though. That is a Fannie Mae program that WHEDA has available to us. And WHEDA is a program, too. Income guidelines are part of it. The more, for one person up to 1 to 2 people is $74,000. If you make less than that, you'd be eligible for WHEDA. And then it goes up from there. So that's really not a grant program, that's a first-time homebuyer program. The city of Milwaukee has a grant program for $5,000 to $7,000 where, again, same thing, you have to meet the income requirements. And then at that point in time, you'd be eligible. You have to do 8 hours of education. So there's a whole bunch of stuff you have to do to get that. So one of the things that as you prepare and you really would like the grant, and after 5 years it's a forgivable grant, that after the 5th year you really want to be able to, but you can't just say, okay, I'm going to buy a house now and then close in 30 days and be able to get the grant. So you really have to get prepared for that ahead of time. Kind of like Milton was talking about, if you're trying to fix your credit, you can do that in conjunction with fixing your credit and get all the steps out of the way and then get the grants. Grants are great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm clicking away here, my bad. All right, so I want to talk to you as the journey continues. I want to talk to you a little bit about buyer's consultation. I usually don't even take anyone out before I talk to them. For me, it's setting the expectation, right? So you'll see I have on here, over here, passionate minister about this. What that mean? Come on. When we have the fear of God, right? You just don't do something, right, with that sign. So after you get your pre-approval, freeze. Don't change your job. Don't change your name. Don't put large sums of money in your account that you can't tell people where it come from. Don't take out large sums of money from your account that you can't explain where it went. Freeze. Don't go buying a car with credit. You got to freeze. It's 30 days. Hold on. Don't go buying a 70-inch TV on credit, new appliances, furniture. What else? You'll get the clothes, but you won't get no keys. Puppies too? Don't finance a puppy, not in 30 days. Freeze. Milton talked about it. You get raked over the coals. I'm sorry, it just feels that way when they are underwriting and they are making sure they want to give you hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. So they don't want to see this. Don't bounce a check. Don't co-sign for somebody else. Stuff is coming to me. Yeah. Just freeze.
You can
okay?
do that all the day after you close.
Yes. I'm telling you, I got the keys and I just went straight to Lowe's. I got the appliances. You just wait a minute, okay? We can laugh and use humor, but it don't feel good when you don't get the keys, you all, for anybody. Also, customer versus client. You have an opportunity to decide how you want your realtor that you're working with to show up in the transaction. Do you want to stay as a customer? I'm going to illustrate this for you in a minute. Or do you want to go into a partnership with a realtor, sign a buyer's agency, and basically you're saying, you're going to be my realtor, and when it's time for me to buy, I'm bringing you to the table. And this is how realtors get paid. One way, we can get paid both ways. But there's a handout. I don't know if you all received it now or if it's on my table. There's a handout of duties that are owed to you as a customer and as a client. The biggest main thing is negotiation. If you're not a client of a realtor, we cannot legally negotiate on your behalf. We have to have a loyalty to the seller then, if you're a seller. It is only if we are in a binding contract with you all that we can negotiate on your behalf. So what does that look like? For my ladies who like to shop, I hope this helps. Men too these days, don't it? Anyway, you go to Macy's, and you see this dress, and it's pretty. And you have a retail clerk, and you say, what you think? I think I like this dress. And she said, oh, girl, because she's treating you as a customer, but her loyalty is to the owner of that store, right? That's a pretty dress. It looks good on you. Okay, I'm going to get it. Okay. She was kind to you. All realtors are held to a standard of ethics. We have to have, we're being authorized to practice law, a limited amount of law. We ain't the bogus over here. But because of that, we're held to a standard. So we have to be honest. We have to be confidential, and we can't, just share things. We have to treat people a certain way. Which there's a lot of legalese, standards that we have to maintain. That's why I introduce my colleagues as licensed realtors and brokers, because some people lose their license because they're not being professional, okay? And you have to renew your license and take continuing education quite often to maintain your license. That's a tangent. So, do you want the realtor that you're working with to treat you as a customer or a client? Just twisting the scenario. Now I'm your buyer. I'm a buyer for this woman, and I'm her shopper, okay? And so I go into the store. I need this gown for this gala I'm attending. Okay, so I go in there. I maybe talk to the clerk, and I'm like, we're looking for this perfect gown, and this you're now my client. And I'm saying it is a nice gown. You know what? With your figure, though, you might want to do an A-line and not the mermaid shape. You just kind of giving more information. And then as an agent that this person is my client, I'm going to make sure I find out everything I can for you. So I might stroll around a little bit and keep looking and come back to you say, hey, I found out they have a sale next week, so you're going to get this dress about 50% off. If you're my customer, I can't tell you that. My obligation is to the owner of the store. If you are my client, I'm telling you every single thing I can find. Girl, I heard they just had a price cut. If you really want this, I'm sorry, but you got to do $20,000 over asking if you want this house. that's what we were in, and some of us still are in, okay? So you're my client, so I owe you loyalty. I owe you obedience. I'm not breaking a law for you, but I owe you obedience. So if I'm like, I don't think that's the house, I owe you obedience. You want me to write the offer? I'm writing the offer, you know? So you have to decide how you want your realtor to show up. And then expectations is basically what you're setting. This is what you want from me, and this is what I want from you. Realtors have the option of not taking the contract. If it's not a good fit, it's not a good fit. We have a lot of different realtors, and we have a lot of different people. So it's good if it's a good fit. You have an understanding, got an understanding. The other part I want to talk about is the selection and the tour of properties. So our role as a realtor is to take all the ways you may have found out about a property. It might be on the multiple listing service. It may be, you was driving around or your cousin said they're going to sell their house. However you found out, we're taking how we're using colleagues. Some of our colleagues tell us, hey, I got a house that's coming up on sale. They can't tell, coming up on market in 2 months. They really can't tell you where or why, because then they're advertising and then you get in trouble. But they can say, I got a 4-bedroom, it's coming, it's got 2 baths. It's going to be in the area of Brown Deer or something. We get inside scoop, I guess is what I'm saying. So you're getting that information as well as the information you can get off of these sites. Some are not as updated as they should be, and we know which ones are and we know which ones aren't. And then we let you dream. Let me know where you want to live, your amenities, what are you looking for? And then we take that pre-approval and we say, okay, you got a champagne appetite with a beer budget. No, I'm just kidding. No, but we're helping to look at the funnel. We're helping you to hone in your expectations. So when we go out there, you're not disappointed. And because when we have agreement, the hand there that's being shaken, we can move forward because so many people get stuck at the tour part. And if you remember the journey, you see how many other steps that happen? Some people just bottleneck right there. When you know what you're looking for, it's easy for a realtor to help you find it. And we have to set aside our biases as part of our ethics and not steer you to where we think you want to live, because we all have biases. Based upon my children's age, I'm looking for parks, I'm looking for walkability, I'm looking for space in the backyard. Somebody else might not have children, they just looking for all be around shopping centers and things like that. So everybody has what they're looking for. So I have the handshaking there is because I help my buyers understand. Clients who will have Pastor Neifeld talk about on the seller side, but they have to understand this is a partnership. You are obligated to find out the where you want to stay. If we get in that, you have to tell us that. We are to focus on the amenities, the type of house, those types of things, the property. Okay, so if you're concerned about a neighborhood, best practices, I understand your concern. Here are some websites you can look at to find that out. But it's a partnership. We can't do everything for you. Actually, it will cause us to have a high fine if we were to do that, or possibly lose our license. Where am I with her? Ooh, okay, so that is my parts, and we're gonna move on. I'm gonna let Tab kind of keep spiraling down. She's gonna tell us about some myths to homeownership.
Well, I don't want to spiral down, but
Okay. Okay, she into the ground. Dig deeper, sister, dig deeper.
So I'm really an interactive person, and so I want to kind of do a pulse check. So Lou, can you just say, the Bible says, Proverbs 10:22 says, the blessings of the Lord maketh rich and add no sorrow to it. Lou, say the Bible says. Jeremiah 29:5 says, build houses and live in them, plant gardens and their produce. One more time. All right, he with me. Proverbs 24:3-4 says, by wisdom a house is built, and by understanding it is established. By knowledge the rooms are filled with precious and pleasant riches. That's what Jesus would say when buying a house, encouraging you to buy a house. Some people don't think home ownership is biblical. I think it's a blessing. I consider it a blessing. But it can also feel like a curse if you don't take the time to properly prepare for home ownership. What is the 5 P's? Proper planning. Come on. All right, it takes a village. In other words, it prevents the blessing from feeling like a curse, right? So I looked up some myths to home ownership that I wanted to kind of peruse. I've learned in public speaking, be brief, sister, be brief, and that's what I plan to do tonight. So one of the myths, the first one is, it's cheaper to rent than to own. It was. It's not always true now, and certainly not recently with the astronomical increase in the rental market. A recent analysis said that buying a home found to be equal or more affordable than renting in 15 of the 50 largest metro cities in the U.S. Another one is, now is a bad time to buy. You know, with the interest rates increasing and things like that, it's never a bad time to buy. Even in the Bible, when they were in captivity, God was encouraging, was it Jeremiah, Pastor, to buy land? You know, so it's never a bad time to buy. Don't let interest rates dictate you moving or staying. It's really about where you are and where you're going. I always ask buyers, what is your end game? That's what you start with. If you know you're planning on making a home in Milwaukee and you're renting right now, especially with rates the way that it is, or rental market the way that it is, it's probably a good time to buy. But if you know you have a 2-year plan, she said, right, like I'm counting down. But then you may want to just pump the brakes and just rent until and make your exit strategy. A myth, number 3, now this is a touchy one for me, and I'm sure my colleagues here, you have to have a real estate agent. I would say, yeah. You don't have to. It's highly encouraged because of, as Lady Crystal said, the legalese that's on the documentation. And you want, from inception to reception, you want to be represented in the best way possible, knowledgeable people who have, it's like going into the doctor's office and not having someone operate on you properly. Oh, all right, that's the emergency broadcast system. No, I'm just kidding. But you want to be represented properly. You can also have a real estate attorney, which Stephen is going to touch base on when and when not to use one, and vice versa. Myth number 4, you should find a house you want, then apply for the loan. That is like going to the mall without a credit card. You just don't do that. Get it first, and like they've said before, Milton and Herb, you want to know what you're working with. You know, another myth, it might be on there, is that I pay this much in rent, so I must be able to afford this much in a house, right? That is not true. You got to count the cost. Common myth number 5, if you're pre-approved for a mortgage, you can automatically get a loan. Nope. Anything can happen from the time you accept an offer to closing, right? Like you said, like Lady Crystal said, you can buy a house. You're already outfitting your house by running your credit. Don't do it. Don't do it. Number 6, don't buy unless it's your dream home. You won't buy anything then. Moving on. It's smarter and cheaper to get a fixer-upper. You got to, again, like the Bible says, count the cost. It may be cheaper initially to buy a fixer-upper, But once you start opening up walls, you have plumbing issues, you have electrical issues, you have things that you did not see with at least my 4 eyes when you walk through it. So renovations can open up Pandora's box. And then number 8, your accepted offer is set in stone. Absolutely not. I always say the negotiations begin when Rick does the inspection. That's where we get to do the meat. I say, you have to play to win the offer, but the real negotiations. And then you're also protected by your appraisal. You're protected by your and the inspection. All of these things can cause your initial offer to purchase fluctuate. And then number 9, I'm paying cash. This is Cookie. I'm paying cash. I don't need nobody. I got Google to guide me. She gonna get me afterwards. Please don't let Google. You know we do it because we do it when we self-diagnose ourselves. We doctors. I have this. And we tell the doctor what we have because we saw it on Google. Don't use that in buying a house. Don't use Dr. Connie's experience in buying a house to be your experience. Well, my friend bought a house and they said this. And I'm listening like Charlie Brown, wah, 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 wah. Don't do that. Please take the time to get a realtor or a real estate agent to help you through the home buying process. Common myth number 10, I have enough for a down payment. I am ready to be a homeowner. I think Milton hit it. I think Herb hit it. So I don't have to hit it. No, you do not. That was less than 10 minutes. Thank you, Jesus. God is good. Let's just take a 30-second rest for the Holy Spirit to download these nuggets into you. Oh, my scripture. You could tell she's a first lady. Don't forget the word. For which of you desiring to build a tower does not first sit down and count the cost, whether he has enough to complete it? If you have any more questions, please see me afterwards.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. He ain't passing the mic up in here. Rick, the home inspector. Rick Francis.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. Thanks for having me. So I am Rick Francis, owner and lead inspector of Foresight Building Inspections. And so as you go through this home buying process, it's kind of a long one, right? You're saving up money. You start working on your credit. You meet with Crystal, and she gives you the 3rd degree that she described previously. So it kind of seems like it moves slow. And then finally, you get an accepted offer. And then right away, boom, you need a home inspection. So you only have a certain amount of time to get that home inspection done. When I was 19, I bought my first house, and I've owned and managed properties since. And I didn't hire a home inspector. I didn't hire him. I brought in my Uncle Mikey. And some of y'all might know Uncle Mikey. He probably did some of y'all breaks, and he probably didn't do them right. And we all have an Uncle Mikey. We all have somebody in the family, a friend, brother, uncle, somebody who built houses back in the 80s, who their heart is in the right place. They want to help you. They want to save you money because a home inspection might cost you $300, $400, or $500. And their heart is in the right place, but they don't know what they don't know. And you don't know what you don't know unless you have foresight. So with that being said, I bought that house. I bought another. And my Uncle Mikey didn't know how to piece clues together. So houses tell a story, and it gives us clues. And it's my job to piece those clues together and give you the story that house is telling. I didn't have any of that stuff. So in some of those properties, I still own them, and some of those problems that I acquired when I purchased those properties, some of them still exist because my uncle didn't know what to look for. So number one, your Uncle Mikey is not a home inspector. The money that you might think you're saving on a home inspection, $300, $400, $500, it's going to cost you tenfold that down the line. So keep that in mind as you go through the inspection process. I also tell people the inspection process isn't just about finding problems, but also educating you, right? A lot of us are investing in Milwaukee or Waukesha, but we have older houses. We have a lot of houses that have been rental properties. So they have old house symptoms or old house problems is what I call them. And if they're rental properties, sometimes they've maintenance has gone to the wayside. And it's my job to come in and again, help teach you how to deal with these problems. And it's not just about fixing the problems, but fixing what caused the problems. Another piece I want to touch on, because again, we kind of talked about the financial aspect of things, that you have the cost of a home inspection. You're also going to probably have the cost of an appraisal. I want to kind of touch base on the difference between the two. A home inspector, I'm there to protect you. The appraiser protects the bank.
That's
The appraiser comes out, and they're there in the house for about 10 minutes, and their job is to say, all right, we're going to look at some comparisons for other houses, in the same quality, the same area, and we're going to come up with what this house is worth so that our lenders over here are okay with giving out that loan. So that appraiser will come out and say, you know what, house is worth $170,000. It's okay to give them this loan for $160,000 because if they don't pay you, you'll be able to sell it for $170,000. Again, they're only in the house for 10, 15 minutes, whereas my job is to protect you. I don't really care what kind of loan you have. I don't really care which lender or real estate agent you're working with. My job is to educate and protect you. I don't care how much the house is selling for. My job is to go through all the systems and components of that house with you and create a detailed report. So again, most often, unless you're getting some type of special grant or something like that, your lender does not get the home inspection report. In fact, you own the report, and I have to get permission before I could even send it to your realtor. But ideally, you want to give me that permission to send it to your realtors so, again, they can negotiate on your behalf. I kind of touch a base on the buying side of things. You do need a home inspection. A lot of people are waiving home inspections, and I get sometimes it can be a competitive market, but I do a lot of first-time home buyer seminars, and I work with a lot of first-time home buyers. And I've had numerous times, probably I've done about 350 inspections this year so far. I say I probably had about 15 or 20 where people have brought me in after they closed. So they went through this whole process with our lenders, with our realtors. Then they skipped the home inspection because they said, I want to make the offer look strong by waiving the home inspection. Because the seller is going to say, hey, if they're skipping the home inspection, they're not going to find out about this bad roof or this bad foundation. So then they bring me in afterwards, and they say, Rick talked about education. I want some of that education. So let's bring Rick in, and I still want to learn about the place after the fact. I've been in situations that by the time I left, they were in tears. I've gone into houses where they covered up bad foundation walls. If you can't see the foundation and you don't know what to look for, you aren't going to find it, and I found it. I've gone into foundations into houses where the heat doesn't work, central air doesn't work. The ducts there aren't even ducts going into the bedrooms because they closed them up. As soon as I walked in, I seen the second floor sagging. Somebody took out a load-bearing wall in the flip, and the whole second floor was caving in. Plumbing was just dumping into a crawl space, the crawl space where there wasn't a basement. Most times we have basements, sometimes we have crawl spaces. The plumbing was just dumping there, and it was full of mold. And this is just one house. This is all these things I just named is what I found just in one house. And I can go on and on. But again, you don't know what you don't know unless you have foresight, and you need somebody there to protect and educate you. And most of my clients, all of them know I'm a resource to them going forward. I get clients who will call me 3 years later and have questions. I have clients that'll hire me again, 3 years later. So whoever you work with, make sure you're comfortable speaking with them. Everybody up here, I always tell people, lean to your team, and you kind of have a layup here. Is what you have a variety of resources here on the stage. Lean to the team. Quickly, I touched base on this, the buying side. I want to touch base really quick on the selling side because I think we're going to hear about selling. If anybody has houses that they're maybe already invested in and looking to take advantage of the market being on the high end per se. Pre-listing inspections. So sometimes people, when they're getting ready to sell the house, they'll bring me in to help prepare them to sell the house. 9 times out of 10, whoever's buying it is going to have an inspection, and you want to try to get top dollar. Some people will also use my inspection report to help get a higher offer and potentially get an inspection where maybe, an offer where they're skipping the home inspection because they could disclose my report. They could say, hey, I had Rick come out, he checked out the house. He found a couple things because no house is perfect, including Rick's house. Rick's house has a couple problems too. And so we addressed a couple of those things. Maybe there's a couple things we'll let you address because maybe you're going to come in and plant some flowers and deal with grading anyways. So some people will use that report for negotiation per se, or to make the offer or the listing look better. I always tell people, again, you have a good team here. You got good realtors here. In choosing whether or not to do a pre-listing inspection, obviously, I love the work and love to be a resource to you, but sometimes different situations call for different means. And so sometimes I say touch base with your realtor. Your realtor is not a home inspector, but if there's roof shingles laying on the ground and they see it, they're going to tell you, all right, you got to get a roof on this house before you list it. So lean to your realtor for guidance on getting it listed and potentially doing a pre-listing inspection. Where am I at on time? Because I can keep going for another half hour.
Good. You're good.
Oh, I'm good. Again, whoever you're going to work with, whether it's realtors, if you aren't working with the realtors up here, whether it's another home inspector, whether it's another attorney or lender, research them ahead of time, read reviews online. Again, I personally have over 400 5-star reviews on Google alone. Read reviews online, talk to them, have conversations. The individuals you are working with in real estate should be people that you're comfortable talking to. There's no such thing as a dumb question. I tell my clients, call me if you have questions. You're not home inspectors. That's why you hired a home inspector. That's why you hired a realtor. That's why you're working with a lender. That's why you have an attorney. So again, lean to your team. So I'll turn it back over to the next person in line.
Thank you. Just a point of clarity, as a customer, there's some things that we may know about. If you're a customer of ours, there's some things we may know about the house that we can't tell you because you're not a client, okay? Because our loyalty is to the homeowner. So we can't tell you, really, this house is lipstick on a pig. They didn't deal with such and such. They just made this bathroom look pretty, but underneath, this water's leak. As my customer, come on in. Okay. It's the truth. You came here for information. Pastor Jeff Neufeld is going to help deal with, going to talk to us about sellers and what you can expect on the selling side. We spend a lot of time with the buyers. Can you educate some of our sellers?
Absolutely. All right, so I'm the guy who helps you put lipstick on your pig, okay? No, I'm kidding. Everything I do, this is the honest conversation I have with every single client. I said, if you're looking for someone to cheat, steal, hide, I'm not your person, okay? And let me be clear, all three of us realtors, and really almost every realtor you're gonna meet is gonna represent buyers and sellers. And a lot of the conversation is who's a good fit for you. Who do you trust, develop, communicate well with? There's weaknesses that each of us have, okay, just as people, as you're aware. And you're going to find that you might fit well with a specific individual here or there. And so that's where it goes. Kind of like First Lady Crystal was saying, we start with a consultation. So what's real common for me is we put out advertising as realtors, or you might know me from relationships or et cetera, et cetera. And you'll say, hey, Jeff, I'm thinking about selling my house. Can you come over? Or you might say, hey, I'm thinking about selling my house. What do I do? And I say, let me come over. So I say, let me come over, for real. So I come to the property, and I'm going to first, obviously be polite, look at your house. I'm looking for things from my perspective. Not that I'm a home inspector, just like he said, but I'm seeing things that are obvious to me, what we call defects, issues that are serious enough that they need to be addressed, okay, pre-sale. So we come through, I have you tour me through your house. I say, hey, show me, how amazing. Say anything good or bad. Don't hide anything from me. I'm not here to make you look bad, but we want to know what we're working with. What we don't want is for the seller to hide XYZ and even their plans. Sometimes people will try to finagle their way to some more money, as you all know, in every area of life. And so you'll have someone say, well, I didn't want to tell you because I thought you would make me. No. Don't do that. You're going to get yourself in a lawsuit. And that's this guy over here. He will be suing you. But no, so we're going to walk through the property. Things that I'll look for is age of roof. I'll tell you, hey, your roof is really close to being end of life. And at that point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to recommend a specific contractor, let's say a basement guy. If there's major cracking that worries me as a realtor, I'm going to say, hey, we need to get a basement contractor in here specifically. Now, the nice part about what Rick does is he does everything all at once, but the nice part about what a contractor does is they normally don't charge you for a quote, but they are looking for work. So you also need your realtor to kind of be that buffer to make sure he's not sending you somebody who's just gonna milk you for every single dollar, trying to say you got to fix something you really don't have to fix. The next thing we do is we really talk about comparables. We do a CMA, it's competitive market analysis. We take other properties similar to your house. The reality is a lot of people think their house is worth a specific amount. Because we're all emotional beings, money is always emotional. No matter who you are, it's always emotional, okay? So you're going to say, well, I think my house is worth, $400,000 because I paid $300,000 6 months ago for it. That doesn't mean it, Even though, my neighbor down the street sold his for this, that doesn't mean it. There's so much that you don't see in pictures on a property or from, one time you were in Uncle Bob's house down the road who, sold his for $400,000. So we do a competitive market analysis to find the value of the home. And really the last thing we ask is that you clean the home for professional photography, okay? So any realtor who doesn't have a professional photographer in that property who's listing your home, do yourself a favor and walk away, all right? You don't have to always go with me. You don't even have to always go with any of the three of us, but walk away anyone who's not taking professional photography of your home. And we cover that. The nice part about us is we put our money on the line. So another thing that people don't realize is, when we talk about commission, and that's a whole separate conversation we don't have time for today, but they don't realize that we put it, probably close to $500 to $1,000 in a listing without any promise that we sell it. So if I don't sell your house, not only am I losing the commission, but I'm also losing the $500 to $1,000 and all that time. So I always talk to my clients and I say, hey, look, I know you're sad about XYZ situation. I know this is a tough situation because tough situations happen. There's no one who can control them, 100% of the time. We mitigate them, we reduce them, but we can't prevent them 100% of the time. But I always tell them, I say, realize no one likes working 80, 100, 200 hours in a house sale and then going, I got paid $0 on it. So we're very motivated.
Drop the mic?
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. Drop that mic, There we go. I'm not paying for that mic, but somebody is. So, just to go over, I want to go over real quick points. There's really two main categories. How to prepare your home. That's some of the things I just talked about. And then the next thing is how to find the right realtor. I'm not saying me, okay, just to be 100% clear. But you want to find someone with professional communication at all times. I can't tell you how many times I myself see the other realtor in a transaction because there's normally two. So let's say me and First Lady Crystal have representing a client. I'm representing the seller. She's representing the buyer. Me and her are communicating. Now, I'm just using her as a generic example. This is nothing, I have nothing bad to say about her. But we'll find another realtor who will have attitude, who will misrepresent it to their clients, who will threaten, who will lie, who won't communicate. I've had people, you're trying to, knock, knock. I'm sending you a text. I'm sending you a voicemail. You're not responding. And it gets crazy. And it creates a lot of complexity in that situation. You have people that they get emotional. I mean, I've had, just to share with you one brief story, there was a property my wife and I bid on, and it had $18,000 worth of basement work that needed to be done. Well, that realtor, we asked for, it was $22,000. I'm sorry, I got my numbers mixed up. $22,000 of work that needed to be done. We asked for an $18,000 credit, okay? And we said, we'll you pay for most of it, but we'll pay for a small portion, plus everything else in the house. That was just the basement, okay? That realtor got very emotional about it, okay? She started accusing us, you're just trying to do this. And I said, whoa. What's this tone about? Because tone matters. Ask any married couple. Two, this is business. I said, this is money to me. I'm not trying to be weird or anything, but money is money. Emotions are emotions, all right? So it's always going to be tied, but you have to keep those separate to the best of our ability, okay? So that other realtor was very accusatory towards me as a realtor, and we walked away. This is something that happened to myself and my wife, and that person went back on market, instructed their client to go back on market because we wanted $18,000. They wound up losing their client $45,000. So when you hire somebody, it really does matter their emotional makeup. If this person is, hot-headed, you probably don't want them as your realtor, okay? You also want someone, representing you through the transaction who can maintain a cool and good communication even when the other side doesn't. Now, I'll sometimes, just being honest, I'll sometimes share, I say, look, this other realtor's acting crazy, because you develop a friendship, and I don't talk bad or slander somebody, but I'm going to, let them know a little bit of what's going on. So they're like, why is this so complicated, Jeff? What's going on? Why is this, But like, look, they're acting a little crazy. That's the all that you need to know about it. I'm the buffer to that. There's going to be stress in every single transaction, but we're meant to take on the stress, okay? Sometimes it gets real. Sometimes it gets very real, but we're meant to take on that stress. The last thing I'll say before I really shut it down is just you want to have a plan of your buy and sell, because often those two go together, on how that works. Too many people, whether you're working with a buyer's agent, a seller's agent, or a combination of both, they go into that process and you tell them, hey, you might not want to, in your circumstances, put in an offer before you have an accepted offer. And they just one ear out the other, right? And so then they're stuck in a situation going, I'm so stressed, Jeff, this is a nightmare. And I hate to hear this is a nightmare, because my job is to make it as pleasant as I can, okay? And I love it when my clients love me. I hate it when they hate me, okay? It doesn't happen very often, but I can't control everyone's decisions, all right? I always tell my clients, you're the boss, all right? I'm just here to serve you as long as it's ethical and legal, okay? So that's in summary. There's a whole lot more that needs to be said, but I'm at 8:43, and I'm going to shut it down there.
That's amazing. That was good. Did y'all pick up the negotiation that happens when you're a realtor, when you have a client, all the negotiating that happens? That was really good. Okay, we are now going to switch gears here. We're going to talk about estate planning. We're going to yield the floor now to Attorney Stephen DeVogus.
Thank you, Pastor Crystal. All right, does anybody need to stretch or stand up? A lot of information has been coming at you fast, and I might bore you a little bit more talking about death and real estate. So if you need to stand up and stretch your legs, I'll take the clicker.
I don't play with the attorney. You want your clicker? I didn't mess with your slides.
All right. As Pastor Crystal said, my name is Stephen DeVogus. I'm the founder of DeVogus Law Group. I work with small to mid-sized businesses. I also do commercial real estate, and I also work as outside general counsel for a lot of organizations, nonprofits, and institutions. I'm also a PRISM EDC board member, and as Pastor Crystal said, I am one of the owners of Red Snapper Fish Company. So on Fridays, you know where to go. All right. I am going to try to perform a miracle and talk about 3 classes of law school in 7 minutes. I have a very ambitious agenda, as you see. First, we're going to talk about mortgages versus deeds. Then that'll lead into the different types of deeds. And then we'll get to the meat of my presentation, which is what happens to your house when you die, options to transfer your real estate in a seamless fashion, and then I'll conclude with some points. Because I am the lawyer, I'm the only one that has to give a disclaimer. This is only for educational purposes. This is not legal advice. I am not your lawyer until you pay me and retain me by contract. So you should get a licensed professional who is familiar with your particular situation should you want to proceed. But this is, good information. So moving right along, when you borrow money to buy a house, most people say, I got a mortgage. Well, for lawyers, that is not exactly correct. What you really have is a promissory note, which is a personal promise to pay the money that you've borrowed back. That promissory note is secured by a mortgage, which gives a lender the right to foreclose should you default on that promise to pay, and it also is recorded, acts as a lien against real property. I call this the the Holy Trinity for property, because you get a promissory note, a mortgage, and then you have a deed. The deed represents your ownership interest, and it's normally used interchangeably with title, but deeds can be titled in a number of ways. Come on now. All right. There are several types of deeds as I've have listed here. I'm going to talk about the three most common ones or most important ones. The first one is a warranty deed. The warranty deed guarantees that the seller's title is clean and free and clear of liens and encumbrances. So that means that's what you typically see in arm's length transactions between unrelated parties. So if I wanted to buy the church, I'm going to get a warranty deed from the church showing that there's no liens, there's no encumbrances, there are no judgments on it, that it's free and clear, and I have clean title. The next most common type of deed is a quitclaim deed. You see a quitclaim deed typically with people who are related or close relations. And that basically, I call it the as-is deed. They don't represent anything. It's like, look, I'm not representing the condition or the state of the title at all, but whatever part is mine that I own is yours. You see that a lot with family members, and you see that with close relations. A lot of times you'll see that with parents. Parents want to add their children to their deed so that when they die or are intestate, or not intestate, when they are incapacitated, they are able to just take over the house seamlessly without having to deal with probate, which is something I'll get into a little bit later. And then the other deed I want to point out is the transfer on death deed. The transfer on death deed is good, and it's a simple tool, but it's a powerful tool in that it doesn't create a property or equity interest in the property until the grantor is deceased. And once they're deceased, then the beneficiary automatically gets access to the property. One point I want to make sure I touch on is be careful who you add to your deed. I have dealt with situations such as divorces where, or not even divorces, insignificant other relationships where they put somebody on the deed and then they break up and then they got to pay that person to get off the deed. And so be careful that you are, hey, that's an endorsement for marriage, right? So make sure you're married to the person that you put on your deed or you're related by blood, basically. That's $300 worth of advice right there. So what happens when you die? When you die, your assets and liabilities go into what's called an estate. An estate is created, so no longer are you there, but this legal fiction is created that gathers everything that you owned and everything that you owed in this life. And they normally fall into two categories. There's probatable assets and non-probatable assets. Probatable assets are things that typically don't have a beneficiary designation and that they have to go into probate court or to a court to be enforced and to be disposed of. Typically, this is going to be your house, your car, your bank accounts. Anybody who's ever had a death in the family and they had to deal with the property part normally has to either deal with probate, like who's going to get the house, who's going to take over the car, how do you pay off those loans. Something you should note is that a will won't keep you out of probate, but it will govern how your assets are disposed of. For lawyers, we try to make everything as non-probatable, meaning that it passes seamlessly and stays out of probate. Things like your retirement account, life insurance, assets that are covered by a trust, and assets with the beneficiary designation are what we are things that you have probate. So if you ever think about when you go to your job, if you have a 401k, they make you fill out your first beneficiary, your second, your third. That's why, because they want to keep it out of probate. So why do you want to avoid probate? One, it's costly, it's time-consuming, stressful, and it can your intent is not always realized in probate, because if you have a will and it's getting probated, some people can contest your will. They'll say you weren't of a sound mind. They will say that you had undue influence, you did it under duress, and now the court got to sort through all this stuff. So you want to keep everything out of probate to the extent that you can. Come on now. There we go. Almost done. All right, so what are some options to avoid probate? I touched on a few. One is to create a trust and put the real estate in the trust. You can own a property in joint tenancy. That means that if two people are on a deed, that when one person dies, the surviving person automatically gets the property. If you're married, because Wisconsin is a marital property or community property state, there's marital rights of survivorship. Or you could put beneficiary deeds and transfer on death deeds on as much assets that you have. Please note, another disclaimer, if the property is not paid off, leave it to somebody that will make the payments. Or direct that it be sold, or set aside funds to fund the mortgage. Also, check your mortgage documents to see if there's assumption of the mortgage language. Sometimes your heirs or the beneficiary can step into your shoes, and continue paying the mortgage. But the caveat to that is that the lender will sometimes want that person to go under their own underwriting to make sure they're mortgageable. And to me, that kind of defeats the purpose. So that goes to my last point. Buy a life insurance policy to pay off your mortgage so that your heirs or beneficiaries can enjoy the house free and clear. Death should not be a burden to your family. It should be profitable if you do it correctly. And in conclusion, I think, what did I do for time? Am I at 10?
Great.
Oh, yes. All right. In conclusion, for most Americans, their home is their largest asset, especially in the black community or black and brown community. Most people avoid making decisions about how they want their property disposed of, especially in our community. We think that if we start talking about death, we're going to bring it quicker. Well, let me tell you, death is coming regardless. So you might as well handle your business, as they say in the church, get your house in order. I've dealt with a lot of cases where family members not wanting to hurt feelings cause more problems down the road, where people are fighting over property and fighting when they should be mourning and grieving and celebrating the life of their loved one. Talk to your families and friends talk to your family about your wishes and why you want things a certain way, and make sure they hear it often and early. Keep organizing up-to-date records. I had a friend whose mother didn't update her beneficiary, and he lost $100,000 because she didn't update her policies and keep them updated. And also, creating an estate plan. An estate plan is not just a will. It's a collection of documents that handles not only if you're in the event of your death, but in the event of your incapacitation as well. With that being said, if you have any questions, here's my contact information. Just hit me up on the website, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Attorney DeVoe, I know we're going to have a time of questions. Can you speak to this real quick as it relates to real estate? When would you want to have an attorney help you with real estate or a realtor? Do you need both?
Oh, yeah. So typically in a residential context, you don't need both. A lawyer is going to protect your legal interests, and a realtor is going to help you get the best deal. So I will do the due diligence, I will do the title work, I will do the surveying, I'll make sure that whatever you contracted for, that is what you're getting, whether you're the seller or the buyer, whoever hires me. The realtor is going to make sure that they might help you finance, they're going to help you price it, they're going to do the negotiation, they might prepare the contract documents. If you need an inspection, like from Foresight, they're going to hook you up with those. They're going to be that buffer to help you get the deal done. I'm not doing none of that. I'm not going to help you find no financing. I'm not going to do nothing, but you bring your contract to my desk, I'm going to look it over.
That's not your billable hour. You don't do that with billable hours. You don't do that one.
Now, you can pay me to do it, but it's going to be way more expensive because I'm going to be charging you hundreds of dollars an hour to run that kind of stuff down. Now, in the commercial context where the deal is big enough and the numbers support it, then you might have both. Or I'm in a couple of deals now where it's just lawyers going back and forth, and you don't want to see those bills. But yeah, if you have issues of zoning, issues of title, surveys, that's lawyer stuff. If you have to deal with a municipality, that's lawyer stuff. But as far as dealing with other professionals, being that, that agent, that's when you want to have a realtor in place.
Thank you for getting my question in there, our question in there first. Maurice Wentz, many of us know him as Brother Mo. Can you tell us how you got there? Can you share with us your story? He is our featured entrepreneur. He's a commercial developer, property owner, manager, has an extensive portfolio. Can you share, will you please, your journey?
Wow. Okay, we're going to start off since Sister Tabitha put some wind in this sail. I'm going to get some of the audience to participate since I'm the last one and I'm from the Church of God in Christ. I'm a weeble wobble and drop it like it's hot. I ain't going to keep you long, but I'm going to keep you long enough to get these golden nuggets. Okay, repeat after me. God made dirt.
God made dirt.
Dirt don't hurt.
Dirt don't hurt.
God made dirt.
God made dirt.
Dirt don't hurt.
Dirt don't hurt.
Possess the land.
Possess the land.
Work the land.
Work the land.
And break the curse.
And break the curse.
My God.
Amen.
You asked me to share some nuggets tonight, and I'm so honored and pleased to be here, both humbled and appreciative. My wife and I are, of course, members of Embassy, MKE, and used to be Parkland. We are investors and developers. I'm a son of the city, as Bishop would say. Born and raised on the east side of Milwaukee, second and right. 8 girls, 3 boys. Both of my parents worked. I graduated from Riverside University, Oshkosh, Wisconsin, and I started in working for Milwaukee County in housing and community development. Started my real estate portfolio in 1995. With that, I grew my real estate portfolio to include singles, duplexes, 4 units, mixed use. At that time, I still have the same tax attorney accountant. He advised me to diversify my portfolio. And I went into pizza franchising. And that's where I lost my shirt and kept my pants. A little bit more participation. God made dirt.
God made dirt.
Dirt don't hurt.
Dirt don't hurt.
Possess the land.
Possess the land.
Work the land.
Work the land.
Break the curse.
Break the curse.
So I'm currently members of multiple boards throughout the state of Wisconsin, NCF, PRISM EDC, Community Impact, and PRISM EDC. So some of my golden nuggets in gleaning and harvesting over the years have been hinged on stewardship and the spirit of generosity, the spirit of stewardship and the spirit of generosity. What does that mean, and where did I get that from? Multiple. Here recently, I read a book called Evangelpreneur. Evangelpreneur teaches that after you glean and harvest as much as you possibly can as a entrepreneur, what's left? Well, they have principles inside this book, and they taught that it is, in fact, for the advancement of the kingdom of God. And my wife and I, we practice that through stewardship and the spirit of generosity, and we were able to and are currently able to have and maintain our real estate portfolio, which is inclusive of the most recent Sherman Park grocery store, and next month we will be opening up our laundromat. And we have plans on 60th and Fond du Lac Avenue for breaking ground for our car wash. So,
Car wash, hallelujah.
well, one of the things that I know for sure that's helped me over the years are the ABCs. The ABCs. I kind of keep things simple. My A for me personally is establishing relationships, rapport, and networking. Relationships, rapport, and networking. And my A has been for years. I currently have a 20-plus-year-old financial institution. My A is an accountant. I've been with the same lawyer and accountant for 20-plus years. My B is a banker and or a financial institution. Been with that banker or financial institution, or wherever that banker went, I went along with them. Relationship, network, rapport. And my last one is counselor. I always say this, and every time that I'm with either somebody close to me that I know is a pastor, but most recently Bishop. He's my counselor, my spiritual counselor. My tax counselor keeps me out of jail, and Bishop keeps me going to heaven. And my counselor is twofold, both in the natural world, somebody that can be your best friend, significant other, wife, and outside of your wife as well, that will hold you accountable. They won't give you the yeses and the nos. They'll give you the nos faster than they will the yeses. That's helped me and helped us. Making sure that for my wife and I, that every venture, even though it's a good venture, it has to be a God venture. Every good thing is not necessarily a God thing. Making sure that it lines up, first of all, with my personal tent, my temple, my household, my castle. It has to line up with my vision, our vision, and our mission inside of my household or our household. I've also learned, and I'm hoping these things help, that you stay in your creation. God made dirt.
God made dirt.
Dirt don't hurt.
Dirt don't hurt.
Possess the land.
Possess the land.
Work the land.
Work the land.
Break the curse. God made dirt. Dirt don't hurt. We all know that we are wonderfully and creatively made in His own image. Stay in your creation. What God has for you will be for you. Stay in your creation. Put your hands, your head, and your heart together, and that's where the power lies. Put your hands, your heart, and your head together, and that's where the power lies. That's just my 2 cents, and it might not be worth a nickel. Thank you.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. You had 2 more minutes. What you doing? Awesome. The whole panel. Can we give a round of applause to everyone on the panel on this evening? We hope you have some questions written down. Even those of you that are on Facebook, we're going to now allow for Q&A. We know that we shared a lot of information, and we want you, if you have a question that you want to have answered, to please feel free to line up at the mic. For those of you who may have questions but don't want to say it over the mic, you ain't getting an answer. No, I'm just kidding. You can. We have booths outside, so we'll linger a few moments afterwards as well. But if you have a question about what was shared tonight, please at this time share it. We'll give you a few minutes, a few moments.
Somebody got a credit question. Come on.
We talked about, let's go back to the whole journey. Talked about so much. Credit, different programs for mortgages. Talked about.
I have a question
Okay.
for Jeff about the seller and trying to hide deficiencies with their property. So if they're trying to do that, what about the real estate condition report? Isn't that a legal documentation that they honestly has to report any known deficiencies with the property?
Sorry, to condense the question, it was on the real estate condition report.
Any defects
They have to legally list them.
on the real estate condition report, right?
Yeah, and those cannot be used in negotiations. Which part of the process is, fixing things prior to, signing agreements and all those things, which is part of, can be a conversation. You don't want to hide things that could come back. It's better safe than sorry. What I always tell people is you don't want to leave the buyer with a question mark, because whenever you have a question mark on a price, you always presume more. You don't go into a situation and say, oh, that could be 1,000 or 10,000. It's probably 1,000. No, you're always going to go, well, I want to cover my own, and I'm going to say it's worth 10,000. Does that answer the question fully?
There's also instances where a real estate condition report is not filled out. It could be a personal representative who's never lived in the home, that they don't have information that could answer the questions that are on the real estate condition report.
Correct. So here's a good example. The siding has hail damage, but it never got, insurance claim was filed and approved, whatever. But you go to the house and still hail damage, and the property is for sale. And it's listed on there, on their condition real estate report. What some sellers would do, they'll just pocket the money from the insurance claim and not fix the issues. So isn't that a violation? Or
A lot of those specifics we run by our brokers, just to be clear. I've been in real estate 3 years. I deal with a lot of transactions, close about 4 a month, 4 to 6 a month. There's still questions I'm asking my broker every single day. And ultimately, the broker is another in-between between us and a lawyer. And so there's levels to that. I wouldn't feel comfortable just saying this, that. And then also the second side of that is the reality is there's so much that can be wrong, but it's not worth suing. And you have to really think about it. Is it worth contacting a lawyer who, I don't know how much he charges, but I know it's a somewhat healthy rate, and, charges a healthy rate, going into court all for $1,000, most cases not, right? So it's got to be considered worth it.
Yeah, so that's what we normally do is we assess the risk of it. So is it a material misrepresentation, right? But had I known this, would I have still gone through with the deal? Or was it fraudulent inducement? Was I fraudulently induced in entering this contract by this? But if it's disclosed, then it's caveat emptor, right? It's like buyer beware. But whatever you did with the money, cool. What you might do is, to Tabitha's point, is now now I got the accepted offer. I find out I got this problem. Now you're gonna have to shave some dollars off of the purchase price. And that happens all the time. Closings in Wisconsin is wild because you think you have a contract and then out of nowhere you renegotiating the whole thing at the title company and trying to get the deal done still. So you just got to be ready.
Question from the audience.
Yeah, so I have a couple questions. So the first one is, and I'm going to direct this to Tabitha. Can you talk about some of the do's and don'ts if you want to get into rehabbing? So that's the first one, and I'm going to sit down. And then if there's someone else that can chime in on partnerships. Some people want to pool their resources and go in and purchase properties, as a group and those kind of things. So far, it seems like we've heard kind of from the individual buyer or seller. But what about when it's a group? What are some of the things to look out for to protect yourself, or perhaps that could be a benefit?
For me, I'm also a licensed contractor, so in rehabbing, again, I have to count the costs and what it would take. Now I can walk through a house, like I'm meeting with Rick tomorrow on an investment property, me and my husband are purchasing, and it's how much is it going to cost overall? Like one of those myths, it's cheaper to buy a fixer-upper. In this case, we weighed the cost of what houses fixed up are going for with interest that we would have to pay somebody else's upgrades versus ours, putting our own spin on it, and we were able to negotiate a stiller deal in this market. So assessing what it would cost to own it and then fix it up. How much is it going to cost? Again, when you're going through the property to look to invest, it might be wise to bring a Rick or a Gary who's a plumber. If you see some things that fixture is leaking or whatever, it looks like there's water or whatever in here. Bring your team when you're looking through a property. It's okay to help assess. I know I've dealt with Gary has worked on a number of properties for us, and so don't do it alone. Go in knowing I know that I can't do everything. I don't know how to do. I don't want to know how to do everything, but knowing a little and putting people lean to team. I need a T-shirt that say that. What did you say? Lean on your team. Lean on your team. So getting a team together. Understanding now when I go into rehab, I have a drywaller now. I have a go-to plumber, a go-to electrician. If there's tiling or whatnot, I'll get my hands dirty myself if it's too much. But also knowing how to do these things too, the basic things, will help you in the long run. And then it helps you to assess costs to make sure that you don't have Gary charging 3 times what it should. He doesn't. But just for other contractors. So having a team in the beginning helps. I learned the hard way. I lost thousands of dollars not having reliable people that I can trust in rehabbing.
Attorney DeVogus, you want to?
Yeah, I'll talk to both points. As a person who has sued a lot of general contractors on rehabs, one of the first things that you want to do is you want to really do your due diligence and vet whoever you're going to let touch the house, right? So anybody you're going to have on site, you want to make sure that they got referrals. You want to check and see if they have any lawsuits against them on CCAP, if they're in any trouble that way. Because what will happen is this sounds bad, but a lot of contractors will rob Peter to pay Paul. So they'll take the money and tell you that it's all this material cost up front, when really it ain't. And then they'll take that to pay off somebody else, and it's just a cascading Ponzi scheme. So you want to really check the business reputation and the integrity of the individual. See what their work is like, if they have other customers, clients. Word of mouth, man, is just really checking that out. The next thing is to make sure that they have insurance, that they have the proper licensing and bonding. You also want to make sure that they pull the proper permits. A lot of times, I was in small claims court because somebody didn't pull the right permit, and we had to have a trial about what the expectation was and was the permit sufficient. So you don't want to have stupid fights. So as Sister Tabitha said, you want to really make sure you understand the process and work through it and see. We call it a critical path in construction, right? You want to make sure that every part is buttoned down and tightened up, and that it's going to be on schedule and under budget, because that's where you're going to go underwater at in that front. As to your second point regarding partnerships, this is a very touchy subject for me. But I'm going to try to clean it up because there's kids in the room. But I remember my mom used to tell me something that I never forgot. She called me Marcel. She said, Marcel, business is like dating. You can't do it with everybody. And so what you're really doing when you enter a partnership is a covenant relationship, right? If I can borrow, a Christian, Judeo-Christian term of art, you are really looking at somebody that you would be as a partner like you would a spouse, because y'all gonna be together a long time. Like, love is temporary, but property is forever. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the most permanent thing you could do besides have a kid with someone is buy a house with them, because it takes an act of God to get them off, like I talked about in my presentation. So in that regard, I think the first step is to make sure you know their character. That's the number one, because you ain't gonna have, the problem you're gonna have with a person is probably their character. Their character flaws is going to come out and it's going to hurt the business. The second issue you're going to have is knowing what role people are supposed to play and making sure they stay in their lane. So if you got too many chiefs and not enough Indians, You know, people, they supposed to do this, but they trying to veer over to your thing or not, or they doing stuff that they not supposed to be doing or they not good at. That's another problem. So knowing what each person is supposed to bring to the partnership, and a lawyer from downtown who owns a lot of property down there told me, you never want to get into a partnership with somebody that you can do what they can do. You want to make sure that they complement you. So if I'm the money, then somebody got to be the brains. I can't be the money and the brains. You know what I mean? Because then I don't need you. You know, you're just taking up space. So you don't want any dead weight in your partnership. And then the third thing is to make sure your paperwork is straight. Most people go into these partnerships and their paperwork is not on point. They either have a handshake or they did some legal Zoom operating agreement for their LLC, or, you know, just real janky. So if you're going to do business, don't play business. So that's what I would say in regards to partnerships.
Can I also add making sure that you have the shared common interests, because going into business, if I'm going with you, you might be in it for the long haul to redevelop in certain areas. I'm just in it for a quick profit. And so making sure that your end game is similar also, along with the things that you put.
Good.
Know the other person's constraints. So a lot of times you'll get into business with people where you willing to work till it's done, but they might have kids. That's going to cause a strain in your relationship because your priorities are misaligned. Like, you know, I have business partners where I'm like, hey, we're going to stay here till they get done, but I got older kids, so I ain't got to be nowhere. You know what I mean? As opposed to my business partner got younger kids, so he can't stay as long, or the energy level or health is different. So, you know, they can't go as hard. So there's going to be resentment if you don't have an equal allocation, or if you're, what's the word, unequally yoked, to, you know, talk about Bible terms. So, man, I could talk about partnerships all day.
I can tell. We're going to take a couple of more.
Well, I'm triggered right now, you know.
Oh, my gosh. Thank you both. Thank you, everyone, for helped out with that answer. Go ahead.
All right. I have a question from someone watching live. Sent me a text. They want you to briefly discuss reverse mortgages. They said they know a story of someone with their home paid off, but then they used that strategy as a different source of income. And then when they died, the property went to the bank instead of to the family. So whoever can address that.
Reverse mortgages aren't for everybody. And for people, like, you can use it like an annuity where your house is worth $200,000, you want to work that out. Typically, though, reverse mortgages, though, when the person dies, that house would be sold and whatever's left on the mortgage gets paid off. So they must have owed more than what typically they must have owed more than what the house then was worth. Because if it doesn't matter when the person dies, if the house is worth $150 and they have accumulated over the course of time $100,000, they would be able to sell it and get the money from that. And you really got to do a lot of research on reverse mortgages. I remember my mother asking me, should I do a reverse mortgage? And just because she saw it on TV, she thought it would be a good idea. But it wasn't a good idea for her to do that. You know, it's really another person I know that did a really successful, he owed $200,000 and couldn't afford the payment on his mortgage anymore. So the reverse mortgage paid that $200,000 off and then accumulated interest. And then at the end, he had to pay his taxes and insurance, but it really was able to allow him to stay in that house. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to do that. So it can be for some people for not.
There's a question or maybe some more instructions from Facebook. If someone can speak to about a will and a trust. Larry says, I need to talk to someone about a will or trust for my kids. Can I get some information? So is that?
Just contact me via email. Just a little talk about the whole process. What we typically would do is do an interview or what's called a questionnaire, and then we would see what would be most appropriate for your situation based on the age of the kids, your marital status, if you had any kids that predeceased you and you have heirs, like grandchildren that are still around, things of that nature. So it could get really, basically I'm gonna know you better than your wife know you by the time we get done with it, or your husband. But yeah, we can just email me and we can set up a time.
Okay, so you can help someone to set up a trust?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great.
I had a question also about the trust. Can you change items within your trust without doing an entire new trust?
Yeah, it depends. Well, I'm gonna give you the lawyer answer. It depends. There's two types of trust. There's revocable living trust, and then there's irrevocable trust. If it's irrevocable, it means you can't change it. But if it's revocable, most people do have revocable. You can change it as many times as you want and just amend it and sign new documents and all that. And that's normally governed within the document itself, how to amend it and change items. So if you want to change the trustee, if you want to change the beneficiaries, if you want to change however you want to, whatever things you want to move around, you could do that in a trust.
Does the client assign the trustee, or are you serving as the trustee?
I've seen it both ways. Typically, you don't want to have the lawyer that drafts it serve as the trustee unless they absolutely have to because of conflict of interest issues typically. So you normally want someone else, or you can have an entity or an entity serve as your trustee too. So there's third parties that are professional trustees that'll do that.
If a lender says you are pre-approved for a home loan, but do not give you a pre-approval letter, isn't it your agent's responsibility to get the letter from the lender?
No,
You are pre-approved?
You are pre-approved. The borrower is pre-approved, correct?
Right, but
But
do
the
you have
lender,
the letter?
the lender does not give the borrower the letter? That was your question?
Yes.
Then you're not pre-approved until you get a letter.
You have to get a
Why wouldn't the
letter.
lender give the borrower the lender?
Yeah, that would be the
approval?
Yeah,
Oh,
a lender, me, I don't give anything to nobody but the borrower.
The borrower, right.
So you don't give the letter to the agent?
Nope.
Or just
I-
the borrower?
Yep, I have agents call me up and they try to pull information out of me. I can't get it. I can't give it to them. I have to give it directly to the borrower, unless the borrower give me permission
That's right.
to send it to the realtor or anybody else, maybe a third-party housing agency or something like that. That borrower has to give me permission. And I usually do that permission through an email because I have it documented to cover my bases. But no, lenders should never just send an agent a pre-approval letter.
And you don't receive the pre-approval letter. They say you approve, but you don't get the letter.
No, the buyer should get the letter.
Yeah.
The buyer.
Yeah, not the realtor. The buyer should get the letter, and then the buyer can then forward that email to the realtor.
If he or she, the lender, say you pre-approve and don't give you a letter, you're not pre-approved.
You're not
There's something wrong. Yeah.
In real estate, they say if it's not, I mean, this is just word of life. If it's not in writing, it never happened.
So my advice, you need to come see Milton Taylor at Johnson Financial Group. He will square you away.
Now, there are some financial companies, I know Rocket Mortgage, if like some agencies have referral agreements to where if they've pre-approved the buyer, they've already worked with the buyer and they may have signed some documentation. And when I worked with Homestead Realty, I would get the pre-approval from Rocket Mortgage because it was already set up to where the buyer has signed agreements that, so.
Well, they're not here to defend themselves
that's
right
not-
now, but
that's not in
they're not
your
supposed to give it to
situation.
anyone else but the.
Yeah, the buyer always have to get that permission. Yep, yep.
Any other questions?
There might be some online. I'm just,
Man, hurry up.
okay. How do you get in contact with the individuals on the panel? Do you all have information on?
Can you repeat the
Oh,
question?
somebody is wanting information from the panel.
We have booths or tables set up outside. Anything that's not taken, we can make sure it's at the guest services.
Okay.
Is there anything electronic that we could, like on the park lawn or the Embassy MKE site, that you guys can upload just a little bit of the information, like the contact?
We can get the information and then we can
Okay.
upload it.
That's okay.
Okay, so here's, Larry says, I need to have my garage replaced. Would a grant would be good to try it? Wait a minute, let me read this right. I need to have my garage replaced. Would a grant be good to try it? Would cost at least $23,000. I had to check it out.
For a door, a garage.
A garage replaced.
For $23,000?
Yes.
I can build him a new garage for $23,000.
You can build a new garage for $23,000?
2,300 or 23,000?
23,000. 23,000. But are there grants available
There
in order,
are
in order
with this.
to have
If
that?
you're, yeah, if you're,
I'm not sure if there's grants. Once you own the house, you'd have to contact, really, that's something to contact the city of Milwaukee and see. Depends where he lives. There's so many factors, but probably not.
tell them to go to the City of Milwaukee website. They do have home renovation grants for homeowners that are already in the home. There are specific target areas that they have that they're trying to use as an incentive. Of course, they have
It depends where you live.
Yeah,
Assuming that they live in Milwaukee, so whoever their city, wherever they live.
Yeah,
like
you
the
just
10.
check with the local government there. There's usually some.
Neighborhood housing services in the city of Milwaukee.
Okay, he's watching on Facebook, so you can look at the camera and tell him.
Okay.
Just go to the City of Milwaukee website
Okay, thank you.
under real property.
Under what?
Real property.
Okay.
And we do renovation loan too, so.
All right, there's one more question on Facebook. I must have missed it. I don't see the question. No, I don't see the question.
I have a question for legal. What is the earliest age you can put someone on a deed?
I believe they have to be an adult. Because for a will, if somebody's under 18, you have to have what's called a testamentary trust, and so you have to put a custodian or a guardian in place. So once they're of legal age or the age of majority, I believe 18 is the earliest you can put someone on a deed.
We have another question?
Yeah, it's a question from online. They said they rented their home in another state. The tenants destroyed the home and he lost the home. How do I bounce back from a loss like that so that I can purchase a home in Wisconsin? Is the question. Purchased a home in another state, tenants destroyed it, he lost it. How does he bounce back?
Lost meaning foreclosed?
It doesn't clarify.
Can we answer the question?
Assuming that it was foreclosed, for the FHA program, you can buy a house 4 years after the foreclosure. If you want to do a conventional loan, it's 7 years, but it's a timing factor. Because you had a house foreclosed on in the past doesn't mean you can't buy a house in the future. You just got to get past those time frames.
I would just highly recommend that individual, if that is a foreclosure situation, and he would check with several lenders. We have different requirements in order, depending on if it was a extenuating circumstance. That scenario, I'm not sure. And what I mean by that, you can go through a divorce and just go under and lose everything, and we take that in consideration, and we look at from that date of the bankruptcy or foreclosure, 2 years solid history with extenuating circumstances, we probably can make the deal work. Typically, it's 4 years if it's just mismanagement of funds on a foreclosure or bankruptcy on a foreclosure. Bankruptcy too. So he should check with several lenders and see what their options are for your situation.
I have a question for Pastor Marcus.
Is Pastor Marcus on this panel? No, I'm just kidding.
It's a church-related question.
Pastor Marcus is not a part of this panel.
It's just I am trying to save up money. Should I withhold my tithes for my down payment?
That's a question for Brother Wentz, because he told you how he got to his measure of success. What'd you do, Brother Wentz?
Practice
obedience.
the spirit of excellence through stewardship and generosity.
Amen. Thank
Good
you.
seed, good ground.
Amen.
You reap what you sow.
Greater than you sow, later than you
Your
sow.
harvest is in
That's
your
right.
seed.
Come on, brother.
No deposit, no return. Come on, y'all. This is some good stuff, you all. I hope you really learned a lot tonight. Again, if you want to access us from beyond this evening, our contact information is out in the information wing. For those of you that are on Facebook, we also hope that you enjoyed yourselves. Check our website. We'll try to have some information out there for you, or contact the church, and we will provide additional information as needed. I again want to thank these wonderful panelists. Can we give them a round of applause? It's very rare to have this amount of intelligence in this area in one place for free. Hallelujah. To God be the glory. You all have a great evening, and don't lose the nuggets that we've gleaned all month long. Now, with a changed mind, you should also have a change in your money. Amen? Amen. Good night.